Kia ora koutou. Just a welcome to everybody. I'm going to our policy and planning hui. I'm going to open this hui with karakia and would ask everybody to stand. Kia ora. E hoa o ngā mano o tēnei ngā mema o te kaunihira o rangitikai. Te whakahoki atu nei I te reo whakamoemati mō ngā manaakitanga I whiwhi nei mātou I roto I ngā mahi pai o tēnei rohe. Manaki tia hoki mātou I roto I ngā take kei runga I tō mātou tepu I roto o mātou nei hui. O tira e iho o ngā mano ho mai piki te ora, piki te kaha, piki te maramatanga me te rangi Mārie kia mātou, nā tangata, nā iwi katoa, kei raro I o mātou aroaro, nō reira ko te tumanako ka mahitahi mātou, I raro I te kotahitanga mō ngā iwi katoa, kei raro I a mātou. Āmene. So welcome everybody around the table. Just to say we've received apologies this morning from Councillor Marton. And I feel like he is the only person missing around the table. But just an acknowledgement to Mr. Chris Shenton, who's still going through the process with track, I understand. Yeah, so can I have somebody as a mover to, well, I'll move apologies for Mr. Moore and a seconder by Councillor Richard Lambert. Thank you. We're moving on to public forum. We have no public forum today, so we can move on from that. Conflict of interest declarations, just to remind everybody that if you do have any conflicts through this meeting, you can either let us know now or else bring that up when we get to it. Ka pai? Kia ora. Okay, so we're going to go on to action 6.
Confirmation of order of business.
Yes, confirmation of order of business. Is there any amendments or anything that's been put in? Okay, so does it have to be a... Okay, kia ora. Now we can move on to 6, follow-up action items from previous meetings. So you'll see in our minutes that all of those have been closed. So just from you, Carol, do we have to go back and rehash that, or we just move on?
No, so what we did, because we haven't had a meeting since August, so this is the time to report on any that were still in progress at that time. So it's just reporting that they're closed, and that closes our process as well. So any actions coming from today's meeting will appear in a new list for next time.
Okay, fantastic. Everyone happy with that explanation?
Thank you. I do have a follow-up because not from previous that's in here, but from a talking table that we recently had in Taihape. One of the things they brought up, there were a couple came to us who said that they would also be interested in these digital classes. So I just thought it was an opportunity to just build on what was already requested.
We can take that and pass it on to Mel Bovey, who was looking at that for us. Yeah.
Through you, Chair, just like to move that the recommendation be received.
Okay, received from Councillor Wilson. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Duncan. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Held up. Chair's report. I think it was on Chair's report.
You did. Have you got a copy there? Or... I'll just get it off.
Apologies, I actually never printed it out.
It's on me.
Yeah.
It's on here.
Next to that.
No, the big tin can, because it was received after the agenda went out.
Yeah, so apologies everyone for lateness in putting my written Chair's report together. So, tēnā koutou katoa, he mihi mahana kia koutou ki te hui tuatahi o te tau, mō tēnei hui kai manawa. Good afternoon and welcome to everyone both in chambers and online for this our very first policy and planning hui for the year. As a newly appointed chair, I look forward to the guidance and support of staff, the mayor and other elected members in this space, and will try my hardest to be an effective chair who can listen, contribute in a positive and go forward manner, and strive to keep our thinking at a strategic level so we can allow staff to get on with the doing of our council work. We are fortunate that we already have a well-defined and cohesive strategic framework, or the core five, that shows the pathway forward to keep our strategic thinking and council priorities foremost in our minds. So this will also help us as we work towards our long-term plan and into the future. We should also be looking at opportunities for us to work in a much more joined up or cohesive manner, so we avoid the situation where the right hand doesn't know what necessarily know what the left hand is doing. I look forward to some of the ideas, thoughts and recommendations that will be discussed around our table to ensure we are working smarter as a council and are on top of issues when it comes to reviewing things such as legislation and submissions, the data that is gathered, collated and then fed into council, as well as other areas within council that need reviewing. He whakatauki, te toia te haumātia. Nothing can be achieved without a plan, workforce and a way of doing things. Ngā mihi mahana piki te orahiro. Kia mana. Kia ora.
Well, see you.
Do we have to ask if people got oh, sorry. Has anyone got any questions? Aroha mai. No? Okay. Well, I'd like to recommend that my Chair's report be received and would ask for a seconder, please. Thank you.
Second.
Councillor Dave Wilson. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora. Moving right along. We are now on to number 8, reports for decisions. And review of the local government statement. I'd just like to say that that it's actually was a really good document to read and go through again. And we're going to put it straight over to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So what you've got in front of you is a review of the local governance statement. We're required to review it 6 months after each local government election. What we've done this time is we've made quite a few amendments for a few reasons. Quite a few of them were to reflect updates in legislation. There's been quite a few changes in that space to increase simplicity and clarity and to ensure that information's current. So there's updates such as our new multi-ward structure with our representation arrangements. So we've attached the amended local governance statement with track changes so you can see what we've proposed, and we're asking you to consider it and then make a recommendation to council to adopt it. Happy to answer any questions you might have about the document or any of the changes.
Thank you, Katrina. In the first instance, can I just ask that that there's a recommendation that the report be received? Councillor Duncan. Councillor Duncan has moved and His Worship the Mayor has seconded. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Kia ora. So back into the discussion part of it. Is there anybody that's got any feedback around the changes that have been made?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. First of all, thank you. There's been a considerable amount of work going into it. In terms of the principles of the report on page 8, absolutely agree. It has to reflect the updates in legislation and make it current. And I agree with the principle of increasing simplicity and clarity. However, there are a couple of things that have been deleted that I think you should consider retaining. If I go to page 14, responsibilities, there's a whole lot of deletions there, and under 2.4, and I agree with simplicity, but I wonder whether you should consider actually retaining those ones, because they are the core of what we are here for. Some of it's covered elsewhere under responsibilities of for instance, the mayor, but the council has those responsibilities inherent to them as well. So I'd just like some discussion around the deletion in 2.4. That's one comment.
Do you want me to comment on that now?
Well, it's probably easier to work through the document in that manner if you wish. Your call.
I
Madam
suppose
Chair.
what, one of the reasons that we did delete it is if it's not specified somewhere, and it's just like a paragraph of words, we wondered whether it was needed because the purpose of local government and everything is in legislation. But, I mean, there's nothing in there that we probably don't agree that council does have responsibility to do, so I'm sure we're happy to put that back in if that's the
Yeah.
desire.
I mean, my feeling is there's a whole lot of stuff that you have deleted I absolutely agree with, but I wonder if that's core responsibility stuff and the more it's made live in the document, the better.
Thank you. Is there any of the other councillors sitting around the table that have got a, thank you, Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, agree with, through your chair, His Worship's sentiments on that, but most of the comments which have been deleted in there relate to us as a district specifically, which we seem to cover most of those things within our own long-term plan and annual plan documents, whereas this is more of a generic government statement policy, so I wonder if it's a double up.
And to some extent I agree with you. It is covered elsewhere under various pieces of legislation, etc. But if you're looking at this document, in terms of our responsibilities, so somebody picks up the standalone document, which is the local governance statement, and I don't think it does any harm to have it laid out there.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Councillor Duncan, have you got any?
No, I see what the Mayor's saying and I support that.
Councillor Lambert?
No.
And I agree with that as well.
So push on with some other things because we might be able to amend it in total rather than. And if I go to page 21, sorry. And my note actually refers more to page 20, the community boards. I totally get it that they are an elected process and we have them in 2 of them. But I wonder whether there should be a footnote somewhere to say that in various other towns we have community committees which fulfill very similar roles. That it's slightly out of the governance statement. That's why I think it should be referred to as a footnote rather than anything further.
Any feedback on that, please? Councillor Wilson, I thought.
Yes, is it not captured on page 17, government management structure and delegations? Does that not capture it in the graph that's on that page 17?
Yeah, you're looking at your order paper. I'm looking at as a
online.
standalone. Yeah.
Yeah, just online. It's
Yeah, I've got it.
Sorry, what page is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
And yeah, it does. I mean, they're included.
26 of the agenda.
sorry, 26 of the agenda. Yep, my apologies.
Yeah, but just we have this is about their role, not about whether they actually exist. So if you went to that standalone structure, it says what they are, but this refers to what they do. And that's why I think it should be just a footnote to say they fulfill a similar structure, similar service.
You need some more things.
Are people okay with that? Looking through to see.
Councillor Duncan, any feedback
Yes, I do have one on page 20.
for what we're talking about?
Oh, no, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy with the
Okay.
Mayor to continue.
My next one is just to explain where it says on my page 18, sorry, as the Mayor is an ex officio member of each committee, just to explain to membership ex officio purely means I'm there as of right, but that doesn't mean that I don't have voting rights. I choose not to use them, but I have all those rights.
So can I just clarify then, so would you like us to add in with full voting rights?
Yeah, probably it may get round, because I often run up against this, where people say, oh, you can't vote. I'm sorry, I could if I wanted to.
I think if you refer to the page on the bottom, very bottom
Yeah, that would be
right,
helpful.
might be easier. I know there's a
Yeah.
page number on the actual appendix, but the
Yeah.
bottom number will be easier.
So what number is that?
So that will be on page 23 of the agenda.
Thank you. Right.
I was reasonably happy with the mass deletion in pages 24 and 25 because they are covered in the key planning policy documents. Boom, boom, boom. That's pretty much it from me.
Thank you. So those are three things that we're going to look at. Councillor Duncan, you had something that you'd like to bring up?
Yes, I have a question, thank you. On page 20.
Sorry, can I just ask, is it 20 on our
Yes.
quick can or 20 on this?
The very bottom,
So we're referring
page
to
20 on the order paper online. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So just down the bottom, the third to last paragraph, the Taipa Community Board comprises of 6 members. Electors in the Taipa community elect 4 members. Council appoints the 2 Northern Ward councillors as members of the Community Board. Now, I think this question had come up before, and I just wonder again where our Māori Ward members sit, and for instance, Pikiti Ora, where does she become a member of that committee at any stage?
No. So if you remember, we did ask the Local Government Commission if we could make an amendment to the representation, because this is what came out in our formal resolution. And to do that, we would have to undertake another representation review, and we said we would leave it until the next time we do that. But there is nothing to stop Councillor Hira to attend those. She's been co-opted onto the Ratana Community Board on that basis. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
Councillor Duncan, did you have anything else that you'd like to bring up?
There were a number of just very, very minor typos which I have passed on. I did have a question mark around the top of page 21. There is a date there. It says 20246. Not quite sure what that meant.
Oh, the 4 has got a strike through. You just can't see it.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's 2026.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Nothing else from you?
No, good, thank you.
Sure.
Where in the document does it clarify that Te Rupi Ka have the right to nominate representatives on our standing committees? Where's that clarified within our document?
If you refer to page 28 of the agenda, it talks about Te Rapa Hika as a Māori liaison standing committee, and it talks about the committee's entitled to nominate 1 member to each of the assets, infrastructure, finance, performance and policy planning committees, noting that they're full voting
I hadn't
members.
picked it up when I read it, but I just suddenly hit me. Other than that,
Councillor Wilson, did you have anything you'd like to bring up at all?
A couple of issues that I've raised earlier, so no, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Lambert, anything that you'd like to bring
No,
up?
nothing that jumped out at me.
Given that we've been able to give you staff to go back with 4 things that I've got, and we've been able to explain where things are at with it. I'd like to, I feel we're going to the next recommendation. So the recommendation that the local governance statement be recommended to council for adoption with the following amendments.
So we can either take the following out and just put with amendments.
Okay.
Would be easier than listing them all there. It gets very confusing, I would have thought.
Happy to second that, Chair, with that word.
Second, wrong move, and then Councillor Wilson has seconded the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
We're going to move on to reports for information, democracy and planning group, operational update.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing really extra to add to this. We have an agenda item which we will go over as a discussion item about what these reports might look like in future. So we will have that discussion further on. But I suppose I'd just like to take this opportunity. We did see Katrina on Breakfast TV this morning, and the consultation opens today for the community spatial plan. I think she did an amazing job of promoting that for the council and the district. So I'd like to acknowledge that as her manager. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, given that, can I, the recommendation that that we receive the update, and then we'll move on to the discussion item. So can we have a mover, please? Councillor Duncan, and a second, Councillor Lambert. All those in favour say aye.
Aye. Is it appropriate to put something that you just said in the minutes? Or not necessary?
I would have thought that whatever's talked about on the table goes into minutes.
So, yeah, gotcha.
So happy to take any questions if there are. You'll see quite a detailed comms report is included as part of the attachment, and Lizzie and Nicola, who do our comms for us, has put this together, and I think it's very comprehensive. So, and just an update on the actual comms role vacancy that we have at the moment. So that role will be advertised next week. So we hope to be able to get someone on permanent staff as soon as possible.
Okay, Councillor Duncan.
Just a comment, I'd like to say I really like this format in the little and loud. It's very clear, it's so easy to read, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We can pass that into little and loud. Councillor Wilson or Councillor Lambert, anything that you'd like to add in at all?
No, I just endorse what Councillor Duncan said. No, it's very clear, easy to read, and yeah, very full of all the information you need.
Very quickly for me, you've indicated there's a couple of roles that you're looking to fulfil. Without any real detail about that, have we had significant engagement towards those two roles? Being 3.1 has been listed in this paper as well.
Sorry, I'll just go back to, is that the, for the iwi liaison role?
Yeah.
Yes, we actually did interviews yesterday. We interviewed 4 candidates, and we are going to the next stage with one of those preferred candidates. So I was extremely happy with the calibre of people that we interviewed.
Oh, good. Thank you. That's all I was looking to establish. Thank you.
His Worship, have you got anything you'd like to add into this section of the Kōrero?
Just in terms of, so you have a preferred candidate, what's the induction process that you're looking at in terms of, because this is important culturally? So how's that going to play out?
So we're fortunate that Laquan, who held the role previously, is actually going to come back and do a handover with the successful candidate, which is going to be fantastic. So, and he said he can do that for as long as we need him to. So whether it's a couple of days or a couple more. And I would envisage as part of that he does take this person around to meet key people in the area. And I'll work with him on what else should be covered in that, because he's got some ideas as well. So we have our own formal process in council, but this role is quite different and has a lot to do with external, so like the likes of Nawari, Ngāti and some of our key iwi.
Okay, what would be your expectation as to how that should happen?
As far as the induction is concerned,
You know, a formal, I mean, I'm envisaging some sort of formal welcoming.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
different than an induction.
Yeah.
being that the last TREC meeting got called off, and so I don't know if I don't feel there was a discussion has been had within it, even though I understand that people from TREC were part of the process, which is good. Do you envisage that the person would start on the 11th of April, because that's the next TREC meeting?
We're not at that stage that I can give you a starting date.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on how much notice needs to be given, their availability, etc. I mean, it would be ideal, obviously, but that's not really in my hands at the moment.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yes.
It could be though that, as well as what Carol has said, that if we have a preferred candidate and they are working out their notice, we may ask them to come in for an informal prior to their appointment starting. But that's up to Carol.
Yeah. So just with the TREC hat on, I would assume that there would be some sort of definitely a process that happens for that person. Yes, they're coming into council, but there would also be, whether it happens, I'm thinking that there would be something that would happen at potentially Ngāti Apa, because we're here in Ngāti Apa's on that whenua. And I haven't actually had a conversation myself, and I don't know, but I could start that conversation to say what from a TREC point of view are they looking at, Tony?
Poverty.
Yes.
That would be useful, actually.
But that's not an induction. That would be.
No, it's not, I wasn't thinking so much of a work induction, I was thinking of the pulpit.
Yes, yeah.
And we need to get that right,
Yeah.
because people will feel uncomfortable day one around if we don't.
Yeah.
So can I suggest that once I've made an appointment, that I contact you and we work through what that looks like, and also involve Laquan as well. Yeah. Happy to do that.
And I'm happy to also liaise with the chair of TREC.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. So Thomas and Leanne were part of the interview process yesterday. They found it really valuable, and it was great having them around the room, around the table.
Are you satisfied with that, Your Worship? Okay, thank you. Councillor Lambert?
Oh, yes, I do have a question, as it turns out. What pray tell is MailChimp, and what does it do?
MAIL.
You need to get with the program.
Well, that's why I'm asking. I'm well behind the program.
So this is the system that we use to generate emails that come out to you probably quite often, especially with the Connect. It's run on a system called MailChimp.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
What did you think it was?
I had no idea, because they distributed none, then they distributed 3, so I was a little bit...
It'd be like you and your the farmers in Hunterville. I'm sure you've got a number that you ring, and that's really what it is. It's a way of putting it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'd never heard of MailChimp.
The only thing in terms of Facebook, when you start analysing Facebook, often what is incredibly important is the pages they visit. Is there anything that absolutely stands out?
Facebook or website?
Website, through
Website.
Facebook, sorry. Yeah, the website.
Website. We did used to report on the top 5 pages or the top 6 pages. They pretty much never changed, so that I can probably rattle them off myself. It was always around if there was a rates out payment due, rates was always the top, or if it wasn't due, it was the bottom. Libraries was another one. Waste transfer stations is always high on that list. Cemeteries.
What hours of the waste transfer station open?
They're just general information.
Yeah.
We don't delve into that next level. Cemeteries was always high on that list, and contact us was another one. So they were generally the 5 that we followed through each year. We can get that put back into the report if it's useful.
Does anyone have anything else they'd like to bring up in this section? Anything else to discuss? Okay, then I'd like to move for recommendation that the report discussion on future focus of the committee be received. Councillor
no,
Duncan.
that's, we haven't got to that one. No, we're on the operational update, so we've done that.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay, sorry, apologies. Discussion items, discussions on future focus of the committee.
So, I'll take over the board key here. So this item is a discussion item as we've outlined in the agenda and on the board here. And I've spoken to the chair about what our approach was to generate discussion with this committee about its future focus. This was talked about last year when we looked at the committee structures, and I think your worship said that it was probably a good idea to have a look at this. So we thought the first meeting is probably opportune to do that. So we've got a number of slides here that myself, Gayleen, who's online, and Katrina will run through. And it really is about discussion. These are sort of some of our ideas, but we'd really appreciate your input into some of this.
Oh, excuse me, before we start, are people happy if I move down to another seat so I can see?
Yeah, we can't get it on there. Just Gayleen can see where we're up to.
Is that okay? Just so that I can see.
Okay. All right, so as we said here, we want to refocus the committee away from just receiving the operational updates. I think in the later half of the last triennium, especially with this committee, you were receiving very bulky updates from community development, from my own team, and we just wonder if there's a better mechanism to do that, but ask this committee to perhaps think more in a strategic focus. There will obviously have to be some usual standing items, but we feel like this committee could have a purpose to bring us forward with some strategy. So this is Katrina's baby, so I'll pass on to here. So the strategic core fire is at the back of the room that you're all very familiar with.
Yeah, so we've got the strategic core fire. Where that evolved out of was effectively taking the strategic work that was done through the last LTP and putting it into a visual framework. As we start to head towards our next LTP pretty quickly, we thought there could be opportunities for this committee to really develop thinking around the core fire. So have a series of workshops that ask questions around, well, how are we tracking, what's missing, and really start to develop some of that high-level strategic thinking that would lead us into those wider LTP discussions.
Discussion?
You can see it up there. You're right. Okay. So, I mean, we can continue going through and you can listen to all our slides if you want, but feel free to sort of interrupt as we go through if you want. We've only got a few slides. Do you want to go on this one?
Yeah, I can do this one as well. So this idea would be kind of a standing update that brings together all of the strategy and plan development work that's going on across the organisation. Our core file shows you a lot of what we've got currently, but there are a range of strategy development exercises going on across council, so we thought there was a really good opportunity to bring them into one report, provide updates and really help to get that strategic overview of what strategies and plans we've got, where they're at, etc, and this committee to provide the strategic direction into them.
And also from a staff focus point of view, we don't have a one place where all these fit either, so it would be useful for both sides, I think, to have that.
Can I just make a comment in here? Because when we are splitting up committees and so on, I thought of actually just not having a policy and planning committee and just having a strategic committee and calling it that. But there are some things that do need picking up, so it's a sort of combination. But I also think that the stuff you've got listed there is council focused around things that we need to do. And I think there's also a strategic view around the needs of the community that are beyond council. You know, so for instance, if I look at some very key areas in our community, health, education, I think that strategically we need to look at what our role is, for instance, in education. So, for instance, Rangitikei College has just asked me to be part of their curriculum review and their review of where they're at. Taihape area school education there, they're not in a perfect space, would be fair to say. And, you know, what role and what, if any, do we have in that sort of space? You know, the health reforms and supporting the changes in Taihape, that's high on the list. We've also got similar issues in Marton in terms of, you know, so there's a whole lot of social issues that are in this space, and there's a whole lot of thinking around the future of local government. So we dropped 3 waters, and there's a whole lot of social stuff that we sort of indicated we're in that space by government. But we need to think through, if somebody came to us and said, now that we're taking away 3 waters, what do you want to do? And that's the area we should be thinking about in this committee.
Right, because that's covered in a couple of slides' time. So we're on the same page. No, I know that Galen will be pricking up her ears because that's exactly what she was going to talk about. And the interaction with the Impact Collective, the social side of things, and Galen will talk about that in a couple of slides' time. And also, you're right, there is a place still for the policy and bylaw space, and this is one area that this committee will have input into, and they have to be done. So it fits along here. Yeah.
Dog hearings and everything else that goes along with this sort of stuff.
And the next one is exactly what you're talking about, Andy. Galen, are you happy to chip in on the data dashboard one?
Yeah, so the data dashboard one's more using the statistics, etc., that we can get. We had a summary one at the council last month. It could be statistics on housing. It could be the ones that currently go to the finance and performance. We wondered about moving them to this committee for this report. But it's, a whole lot of more the data that gives the background and what's happening in our district.
And the next one is again, Galen, this is exactly what the Mayor was talking about.
Yes, so this is exactly what Andy was talking about. It would be reporting on updates from the agreement that we've recently said we'd work with the Taihape Development Steering Group around the health services in Taihape, anything like that, those kind of social well-being actions. In the recent Rangitikei Equity and Wellbeing Profile from the Impact Collective, they highlighted a whole lot of opportunities. So it would be reporting against progress against those opportunities as well.
And again, what the Mayor was talking about, legislation. So keeping this committee up to date on legislative changes. Obviously, some of the major reforms will still have to go to council as well, but having this committee have an oversight of submissions and legislative changes. And perhaps we have suggested here that there could be a small group of councillors, and I know the Mayor's talked about this before, a small group of councillors actually working on key submissions and then taking them back through this committee. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, we thought it was an opportunity. Currently, you get a summary at full council. We thought it was a better opportunity to come to this committee so that we could actually talk a bit more in depth and even start to develop positions relatively early in the process.
And our last slide covers everything else, other. So specific reports, this could be a place where, like you saw the local governance statement come earlier in the agenda, but also the MOU partner reports. And I suppose it's trying to maybe see what fits with council, what fits with a committee better, so that you actually get more interaction. And then we've got some questions about the operational reports. So the ones that we spoke about before, with the housing QV reports, could they come to this committee as part of that data dashboard reporting? And is there an opportunity? We know that councillors like to know what's going on, especially in the community development space, but is there an opportunity just to get those reports and provide them in the big tin can rather than through an agenda like this? And we've said here, this is a small committee. We feel like it is going to take more of a strategic focus and will have a lot of oomph going into the long-term plan, and perhaps there might be a relook at the makeup of this committee to see if it would be better to have a couple more members. And then also the meeting frequency. We do have meetings scheduled every second month, but potentially where there are some meaty submissions or issues going on, we could have a workshop, a bit like we're doing with the assets and infrastructure. So that's really our thinking. This is an opportunity for discussion. I mean, Gailey, myself and Katrina have done the thinking. It's now open for discussion and thoughts and a bit of direction if you have some.
Can you just give me the headings of your slides again, please?
So this is legislation and submissions.
Yeah.
So review the sort of collective outcomes. Impact collective outcomes.
Yes.
Data dashboard approach.
Okay. Yeah.
Policy bylaw.
Yes.
Strategy and plan development.
Yeah.
And then the strategic framework.
Given this is just this is an opportunity for us to, it's the first time we've seen it, and all we're doing is receiving at the moment. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So given that there's the makeup of the committee, we've got a person missing, and I feel like we've got to. That kind of all makes sense in my head, but I feel like we can receive it, and then we have to, some way, however we do this, we've got to have a discussion about it. And I don't know if that discussion happens right now because the information's here, but people have it's got to sink into what's all involved in everything that's been put forward to us. That's just what I'm thinking.
Can I put another heading up that it goes up against all of them?
Yeah.
For this to, in my opinion, for this to work really well, there needs to be a recognised process of co-option. So, for instance, there's a whole lot of strategic stuff, and I think, say you're working on the impact collective, etc., or you're working on housing or whatever, we don't necessarily have the expertise at this table, but the expertise sometimes exists. And we shouldn't be scared to say we will co-opt people to groups and give them some delegated responsibility if it's needed to be able to help this sort of work.
Councillor Wilson, have you got anything that you'd like to? I'm going to ask all of you, by the way.
No, I'm just pondering this one a little bit further. I'm just not. Yeah, I'm quite sure where what is the outcome? What is the desire? I just can't I just can't quite see that just yet, but I'm just,
In terms of co-opting someone?
well, in the overall, yeah, what's the end goal out of it? I just can't quite get my head around that at the moment, so I'm just going to ponder that a bit further.
Okay. Councillor Duncan?
So the feeling I'm getting around this is from the last triennium, the policy and planning that I was part of, this is actually a new model we're looking to create with a real strategic focus. And I think in that way, that idea of actually having other people on the committee is a good idea, or even just not so much having more people, but actually representing it to the whole of council. Because in fact, when people put their names towards policy and planning, it was a different thing. And if they were introduced to this new idea and the idea of it becoming much more overarching in a strategic sense, they might be more interested. And actually there is a lot of skill in there that might put themselves forward. And I wonder even if we shouldn't use the COFI and as a model to sort of renew our thinking and renew the COFI, in fact.
Yes, and that's the intention, is for this committee to start looking at it with us and have it and explain it and have everyone's input into it so it can go into the long-term plan document, and that way you'll get a greater understanding of what it is and what we want it to achieve and what we want to tell our people, our residents about.
Councillor Lambert?
Yeah, I'm a bit like Councillor Wilson, a bit more time to chew on. I like where it's going, but obviously, we're in a bit of an uncharted waters there, so we'd have to, navigate accordingly. But yeah, I'd like the thrust of it. Yeah, it's good.
My 2 cents with this kaupapa. In my mind, it makes total sense for us to be lifting the thinking up. Sorry, I've got my back to people, but refocus the committee away from just receiving updates, become a committee that reviews and inputs into strategy. So what I like about it is I feel like maybe it's the next one down, the next slide. Can we just go back through a couple of these slides? Because I don't necessarily want to focus on one particular part of it, because there's a whole lot of moving parts in it that we've got to get sorted. No, it's not that one that I was thinking about. It's actually that third point that makes me think this really here is the bit that I'm interested in, because it is that kōrero in my head around we've got all of these plans that are out there, and I think I said in my chair's report about making sure the right hand knows what the left hand's doing. And so I feel that there's been many, and if you ask me what were they, I can't tell you, but I feel like there have been definitely times where it hasn't felt like the right hand has known what the left hand's doing. And I feel that by bringing things together in this type of way, there's an opportunity to ensure that whatever we're doing, has it clicked off against that? Has it clicked off against that? Has it clicked off against that? So I don't know, all we're doing is receiving this report at the moment.
Yeah, I take on your point, Councillor Wilson, that this is a completely different way. We did, I did chat to the chair early last week to say, are you comfortable with us bringing this through? Like I said at the beginning, we've got ideas, but we would really welcome input. But your point, Councillor Duncan, is well made, that perhaps this is a larger council discussion, and we might get an opportunity. Next week's council meeting on the consultation document should not actually take too long, so we might be able to have a workshop and just present this and get a bit more open discussion with other councillors as well. We can load this presentation onto the big tin can, and you can all have a look at it, maybe do some thinking before then. Yeah, happy to do it that way if that's what you would like.
Has anyone got any, because I want us to actually just, have you got anything else that you'd like to say around this kaupapa?
I'm excited.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair.
Your Worship, have you got anything else you'd like to put on?
No, I think we're starting to go down the right track. We may need some help to go down this track. And there are some very, very good people in these spaces. And Peter will know some of those people and how to help us with that process. But I don't see, as I said, I don't see the point in just having a policy and planning committee that just basically receives information. It just sits there. You know, and you go through the time frame and think, oh, you've done that committee, but it hasn't gone anywhere. That's what I want to try and get out of.
Just my comment to that, Your Worship, is that it's good to know that as from my point of view, that we are prepared to look at ourselves and we are prepared to make changes and to make improvements if we see that it needs to happen. And so those improvements, as you've said, Your Worship, it's not just necessarily those people that sit around and are elected members, but also we have a great staff that's around us, and also taking into consideration other people that are out there in the world that can help us. So sometimes, and I'm not going to say, sometimes you don't necessarily just keep sitting in the same space.
Yeah.
And so you acknowledge that, yes, you've sat in a space, but hasn't necessarily achieved anything. So this is a way forward as far as I'm concerned. So look forward to that. Yes.
Just further to that, Chair, and taking on board not only your comments just then, but Bruce's comments as well. Perhaps a change of names in order then strategy and development, strategy plan and development might be rather than policy and planning. If you keep calling it policy and planning, we're going to slip back into the old habits. So perhaps a change of wording might be in order as this develops further.
Councillor Duncan, did you have another comment? Sorry, I saw you go like that. So.
Oh, sorry, no, I was just thinking. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Oh, well, I think there's been some really good discussion around the table by everybody. There's some things for our team, our staff to take away and think about, and hopefully put on into the next council meeting if we're able.
Yes.
But at least the discussion as a starting point has happened. All right, well, can I the recommendation that the report discussion on future focus of the committee be received? Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Duncan. A seconder, please. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Kia ora. Carried. I feel like we're closed. Well, I'd like to just thank everyone for your time. Thank you for those people that are online that have sat through and listened to this our discussion on our hui today. Thank you, Gayleen, who's also online, for your input into the meeting. Kezia, Katrina, Peter, and also Carol for your work that you do as our staff for our council. Just a huge mihi out to you, and also to the councillors. And lastly, a huge mihi to you, our mayor. Thank you, everybody, for listening. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.